This is lesson 20, revising for specifically dialogue. Alright, so dialogue can be very fun, and you will note that dialogue is going to quickly increase the amount of paragraphs in your essay. Okay, so we're going to do this and focus on dialogue. Alright, so I'll go ahead and just read what it says. So one of the best ways to improve a piece of writing is to add dialogue. And dialogue, just so you know, is when multiple characters talk. Right? It's that conversation piece. So dialogue makes the story more interesting and, well, fun to read. So, dialogue creation. So if you have not yet added dialogue to your essay, you are going to now. And this is that moment where you do it here, and then you can copy and paste what you do here into your working final draft of lesson 19A. Okay? So just be aware of that. So the things that you do here, you also need to transfer over into your working final draft, which is located in lesson 19A. Okay? All right, here we go. So, dialogue creation. So use dialogue to write an example. All right? So you're going to write an example of two of the situations and include this interaction in your essay. All right? So to keep the action moving. So often you can use dialogue to keep that action moving. Right? So maybe you're at a point in your essay and you want to kind of move forward with the plot. So dialogue can do that. So if you're like, okay, yeah, we're in Hawaii and we're at a hotel and we're about to go, scuba diving, right? So, all right, great. So that's how do you progress to that? So maybe you can say, yeah, my dad woke up in the morning and was super excited to go see the turtles when scuba diving. You know, he shouted, and then you, in quotes, state what he shouted out. And then maybe you have, maybe the mother response or the sibling response, like, Dad, why are you being so annoying, sort of thing. And that's moving the action forward into the next point of your narrative. All right? So either find an example or write an example of moving the action forward using dialogue. Show personality. So you can often show personality through dialogue, and you can do that in many facets. So maybe you want to portray your sibling as an annoying individual. Well, you can do that through dialogue, right? And you can so maybe an example here would be, when we're in the hotel waiting to go scuba diving and potentially see the sea turtle, as my dad so excitedly says, my little sister comes up to me bored out of her mind, and she annoyingly states, I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. See? I'm not touching you. End quote. Through this, I got super annoyed because she is an annoying little brat. Right? Something along those lines. But that dialogue is portraying personality of a person. Right? That I'm not touching you, and then the way that you say said. So instead of saying, yeah, my sister said, I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. You can use instead the term or the phrase annoyingly stated. And then that again portrays personality. So you need to either write an example of personality being portrayed or find an example from your essay and write that there or copy and paste it over. And then adding additional information. You can use dialogue to add information. Right? So a great moment with this scuba diving piece is maybe you're now at the place where you go scuba diving, and the scuba diver instructor is stating through dialogue some of the instructions or information of the proper ways to scuba dive. All right, so that right there is a great way to add information or in any other facet that you would like to do. So again, write an example there or copy and paste one from your essay. Okay, moving on down. So this is just general dialogue rules. All right, so you don't necessarily have to do anything here, but I do expect in your final draft to have you following these rules. So I'm going to go over each rule, okay? So when you use dialogue, you place quotation marks around the spoken words. So before the spoken words and after the spoken words. Example, Sally laughed. Quote, I never would have expected a surprise birthday party. End punctuation, end quote. So the quotation marks go around what is actually being spoken. Place periods, commas, and other punctuation that end a quotation inside the quotation marks. So what that looks like, I'm so happy, comma, end quote. This is what we call a tag, right? And I'll get into the tag later. But because the tag comes after the dialogue, you put a comma there. Right? Now, if you wanted to exclaim it with an exclamation mark, you put the exclamation mark inside the quotes, because that's how, in this case, Sam says it. So, we made it! Exclamation mark! End quote. Tag, shouted Sam. Mom asked, are you hungry? That is a question. So you put a question mark inside the quotation marks, because what is being spoken is the question, not the full sentence. Okay? And then Juan worried, I think we might be lost. Period, end quote. Solid. All right? So that is the punctuation rules for dialogue. And now we move into this thing called a tag. So end punctuation goes after the tag. If the tag is before dialogue, you put a comma. If the tag is after dialogue, you put a comma. Ooh, what the heck does that mean, Kemper? All right. So I'll go and show you in a minute here. A tag is the small phrase before, after, or in between the actual dialogue itself. Typically mentions the person talking and the manner in which the dialogue is said. So this is the he said, right? She said. Juan stated. Mary laughed. Rebecca stated. David remarked. Those are all tags. All right? It is stating who is saying the dialogue and how they're saying it through the word said or any other term that you use in place of said. All right? But there is some punctuation rules that kind of go along with it. And I kind of elaborate it when we're talking up here. But end punctuation goes after the tag, right? So that means that if you say Mary said, comma, quote, then you need to put that comma right after the tag. So Mom asked, comma, are you hungry? Juan worried, comma, I think we might be lost. Okay? If the tag is after the dialogue, you also put a comma. All right? So what I mean by that is, I'm so happy, she stated. There's a comma there, right? But that goes inside the quotes. So if it's dialogue, tag, it goes dialogue, comma, end quote, tag. All right. All right, so you place periods, commas, and other punctuation marks that interrupt a quotation inside the second quotation mark of the first quotation. Whoo-wee! All right, so what this basically means, it's not as complicated as that says. So if you have dialogue and you want to interrupt the dialogue with a tag in the middle, as it shows here, I haven't eaten cake, said Lucinda, since our last family party. So the full dialogue of what Lucinda's saying is, I haven't eaten cake since our last family party. So this is where writer's choice starts to come in. You could have said, Lucinda said, I haven't eaten cake since our last family party. Or you could have said, I haven't eaten cake since our last family party, Lucinda said. There's another way to put in that tag, or the moment where you state who is saying the dialogue and how they're saying the dialogue. You can put that right in the middle of the dialogue. That's writer's choice. So that's how you do this. I haven't eaten cake, said Lucinda, since our last family party. Okay? There is some rules there that you have to follow in terms of punctuation. So if you put a tag right in the middle, you got to put a comma in the dialogue right before the tag. Make sure it's inside the quotation marks. You put another comma after the tag right here. And then you finish off the dialogue. So basically, it's a combination of the tag at the beginning, right here, right? The tag at the beginning, and a tag at the end. So you use both rules, basically. Okay? All right, so remember that writing dialogue is like creating a conversation on paper. Make your characters sound like they are really talking. So make it sound conversational. Don't make it sound stilted and awkward. All right? When a different character speaks, indent and start a new paragraph. So this is where your paragraph numbers are going to drastically increase. So anytime a new person talks, it's a new paragraph. Example, Sally laughed. I never would have expected a surprise birthday party. Joe replied, "You really had no idea? I thought for sure you had discovered our master." "Oh, that is what you guys were talking about," Sally interjected. So, Sally talked, paragraph. Joe replied, new paragraph. Sally interjected, new paragraph. So anytime a new person talks in a conversation, it's a new paragraph. So that's what I mean when you can increase your paragraph numbers. You can go from 10 paragraphs, now it's only like 20 paragraphs because you have 10 paragraphs of dialogue, right? So anytime a new person talks, new paragraph. And then if you go back to narration, so right after Sally interjected and you want to start getting back into your narrative where you're discussing what's happening, right? That's a new paragraph, okay? Add more detail to your dialogue by describing how a character is speaking. So instead of just simply, "she remarked," you can get into detail on how they are saying that dialogue. Example, Millie mumbled under her breath, "I forgot my homework." The old woman cackled loudly and then proclaimed, "Happy Halloween," right? So you can really add detail, figurative language, right, to increase that imagery of how these people are talking. It just doesn't have to be stated, remarked, interjected, shouted. Get more detailed on how they are saying those words, right? Then lastly, don't use said all the time. If I were you, I wouldn't use it at all. It's a dead word, right? So you want to get rid of those. And there's so many better ways to say what they're saying and how they're saying it instead of just simply using the simple term of said, right? So instead, use words that describe how a character spoke, and let's put said to bed. So then I included this put said to bed chart here that basically is options for you to use in place of the word said. So this has very minimal things to complete in terms of turning in today. So you just got to complete this first portion right here. And this is going to be due today, Thursday. That's the 28th. So that's it. That's all you got to do. But there's a lot of editing that is taking place in 19A. So when you're going through this, you need to make sure that you are completing these items in 19A. So that is your working final draft. So this is like a guide to assist you in making a better final draft in lesson 19A. So take this information and edit heavily in lesson 19A because the actual work for this particular lesson 20 is very minimal. Okay? A lot of the work needs to take place in 19A. Okay? So that is the process for lesson 20 and how to write dialogue in an efficient, strong way. I hope you guys have fun, and I'll talk to you later.